last Monday, I used a new mask on my face, okay? I don't really use mask on my face, but my mom had gave me one when I saw her recently, and it starts with an S. I can't remember the name of it, but it's a turmeric clay mask, right? And I've heard that turmeric is really good for your face, so I wanted to try it. And plus, it's a anti-acne type of mask. Not that I necessarily have acne. I have acne-prone skin, okay? Because I used to have really, really bad breakouts my teenage 20s and stuff like that. It really wasn't until my 30s that my skin decided to semi-act right, okay? But nonetheless, I wanted to incorporate it into my skincare routine, okay? And it said that it cleansed impurities. So I'm thinking, okay, cool. If I have anything on my face, it's going to cleanse it right on up, and we're going to be good. No, okay? So on Tuesday, this is how quick it worked. On Tuesday, I noticed that I had breakouts in my chin area. And when you have breakouts on your chin or your jawline, it's usually hormonal, okay? But I noticed that I was having quite a few. And I was like, what is going on? And I remembered that I had used the face mask, right? And I misunderstood, okay? I thought that, just cleansing my impurities, whatever was on, my face, if, whatever, dirt, oil, whatever. No. It went below skin surface level, okay? So the breakouts that I did get, I was going to get them eventually, okay? But the mask brought it out a lot quicker. And that's the process, y'all know, of skincare, especially for products like this, is that your face is going to react to it, right? You're going to have breakouts, but it's the process. It's a cleansing of it. It was already underneath your skin. It was already there. It just hadn't come out yet, right? But the mask or whatever products you use is what brings it out. And it's the process of it. And it's not a fun process, right? Because we don't like breakouts. Nobody does, bro. Nobody likes to have breakouts on their face or anything like that. It can be kind of like, a self-esteem type of thing. It can kind of lower your confidence a little bit, or whatever, okay? But nonetheless, it's part of the process of getting it like cleansed and purified so that junk comes out of your face. The Lord started speaking to me about this, y'all, because it's the same process of when he takes the impurities up out of you, when he draws the impurities that's within you and brings them to the surface. It's an uncomfortable process. We don't want to see that, okay? We suppress a lot of things as humans. You might not realize that's what you're doing. A lot of people think they have healed, but really they're not healed. They just have suppressed the things, and pushed them down because they didn't want to acknowledge it, okay? But what God does is he brings it to the surface so we can acknowledge it, so we can say, hey, this is in you and it needs to come up out of you. And it's not a fun process at all. Like the mask, it didn't create the impurities, right? It was revealing what was already there so that it can be removed. The breakout feels worse than before, not because damage is happening, but because the process is visible, and visibility is what we don't like. Nobody likes for their impurities to be showcased to the world, right? Nobody likes to be reminded of certain things, of the darkness that's within you, right? But that's what God does. And it's not to shame you. It's to say, hey, this is in you. Let's get it out. When God puts us in the fire, right? He isn't exposing us to shame us, like I said, okay? He's exposing us to heal us. The things that rise to the surface, we got old wounds, fears, reactions, sins, coping mechanisms, okay? And thoughts, like the thoughts that we have were already present, but in comfort, they stay buried. In heat, they cannot hide anymore, okay? When God brings you through the fire, everything that you thought you hid will be exposed. Malachi 3:3 says he will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, right? He sits, okay? He doesn't rush, right? He's not careless or cruel. He sits and he watches and he forms. This is also a part of the journey with God where a lot of people will walk away, bro. They will, okay? And just like with your skincare, okay? If you quit the mask mid-process because of the breakout, like I was saying earlier, like telling my daughter, like, I'm done with this. I don't want to do this no more, right? The impurities stay trapped underneath. But if you trust the process, healing happens below the surface, not just cosmetically, okay? I've talked about this before, y'all. God is not a Band-Aid God. He's not going to slap a Band-Aid on your hurt and tell you to move on. No, he's going to get to the root issue. Let's find out why this hurts you. What happened to you in the past that has caused your mind to have this mindset, right? Your thoughts or whatever. What happened to you in the past that has caused you to react like this when XYZ happened? God isn't breaking you. He's breaking things up out of you, right? And the enemy loves to mock during the breakout stage, okay? But God calls it the cleansing stage. You're not regressing. You're not ugly in process, right? Because I know some people feel that way, right? Like I was saying earlier, when we're using the analogy of skincare, when we have breakouts, when things are exposed, right? We feel, let's be honest, we're not the most confident in those situations, y'all, because we got all these like impurities and breakouts and stuff like that on our face. But you're being purified, right? And purification always looks messier before it looks radiant. Same thing with your skincare, right? I know it causes the breakouts. That looks messy, right? But once that heals and you're being consistent with your skincare routine from there on out, your breakouts are going to become fewer and fewer, probably maybe even non-existent at that point because it's done pulled everything up out of there. When you quit the process mid-refining, just like with your skincare, right? If you quit it because you don't like the way it looks, like nothing disappears, okay? Just like with God, if you quit the refining mid-process, nothing disappears. It just goes back under the surface, just like your the impurities on your skin, right? It stays unhealed, unaddressed, and eventually resurfaces again. I promise you it will. Usually louder, deeper, or in a different form. That's why scripture talks so much about endurance, okay? Not because God is cruel, but because healing requires completion. What does James 1:4 say, right? Let perseverance finish its work in you so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. Finish its work. That's the part most people miss, bro, because walking away doesn't mean that the issue goes away. Matter of fact, you will carry your same issues that you did not want or allow or whatever God's healing you, you will carry it into your next season. Okay. God does not want that to happen. That's why certain seasons are meant for certain things, because I mentioned this before, y'all. God will literally, he will prepare you in this season for the next season. Okay. So if you're not working with God in the refinement and you want to walk away and all this stuff, everything that he's trying to do in you is going to stay in you and you're going to carry it into the next season. And that's going to cause issues in a season that God didn't want you to bring them issues into. That's why patterns repeat. Okay. That's why cycles continue. You wonder why you're still stuck in the same cycle, bro. Listen to God. What is God wanting you to do? Okay. You're going to stay in that cycle and you're going to continue to repeat it until you learn God is patient. God is long suffering, baby. I promise you, you're going to be repeating some cycles. Okay. That's why people will say often too, why am I back here again? Why am I dealing with this again? Why does this keep happening to me over and over and over? It's not punishment. It's mercy, right? God keeps giving us chances to heal what we wouldn't let him touch before. Okay. And I know that's hard sometimes, y'all, because sometimes we're scared to heal, bro, because we've been in this mindset, this way of thinking, this situation for so long. It's all we freaking know. And I'm gonna be honest with you, healing sounds beautiful, but it also sounds scary sometimes too. Okay. But with God, bro, it is beautiful all the time. Yes, it's scary. Okay. Yes, it's scary. But you know what? God works all things out for his greater good. And this healing is part of that greater good for you. His glory, your good. Philippians 1:6 says, he who began a good work in you will carry it out to completion. That's a promise. I promise you. Okay. When God starts a work in you, he will carry it out until you are complete. Something I wanted to add really quick when it comes to your marriage promise. Okay. This same thing applies to your person that you're standing for. Okay. They are going to have to go through the fire. Some of them probably are already in it and they don't even realize it. Okay. That's why sometimes they might react certain ways, right? They might shut down, withdraw, be snappy, be irritable, right? Because God is exposing things in them and they don't like it. He's bringing it to the surface and they don't like it. Just like we don't like it. Just like with skincare, with that mask, it brought impurities to the surface and I didn't like it. Okay. So it's a part of the process, y'all. But when God, just like Philippians 1:6 says, he will complete the work.